They said it was just a card, just a benefit, just a way to make life easier. But for Denise Carter, every grocery trip now feels like a test she didn't agree to take. Each apple scanned, each carton of milk approved or denied, judged by an invisible system that knows more about her pantry than her own family does. She didn't sign up for surveillance. She just wanted to feed her kids. Until one day her EBT card didn't just stop working, it started talking back. Cold, robotic, and final. Purchase denied, nutritional quota exceeded. Her heart dropped, her stomach twisted. That day Denise realized food wasn't just data now, it was control. Before you tap your card again, ask yourself, who's really deciding what you can eat? Tell me what you would do in Denise's place. Like, comment, and subscribe to Zelly Digital Dilemma, because the next story might be yours. Denise worked double shifts at the local clinic, 12 hours on her feet, 12 more trying to stay awake for her son Jamal. The EBT card wasn't luxury, it was survival. That little piece of plastic was the bridge between hunger and hope, the invisible thread holding their world together. Every beep at the checkout felt like relief, a tiny confirmation that she was still making it. For years she swiped and forgot. It was simple, predictable, until the messages started. Spending outside your usual pattern detected. She frowned. She'd only bought milk, bread, and fruit, the same as always. The next day, another alert. Your account will be reviewed for nutritional compliance. Her chest tightened. Nutritional compliance? She laughed it off, brushing it away like spam, but the unease lingered. When she opened her grocery app later that night, it showed an ad for the same cereal she'd bought that morning. Not similar, the exact brand, size, and flavor. It knew her routine, her choices, her life. At first it was just eerie, then it became invasive. Her phone began recommending approved foods, government-partnered brands, cheaper but low quality. When she tried to buy something else, a red message flashed, not covered by your program. She tried to override it, but the app locked her out, a cold mechanical voice echoing, transaction denied, please adjust your selection. Denise froze in the middle of the aisle, surrounded by flickering screens and scanning lights, all watching, all judging. That night, she lay awake listening to Jamal's breathing, the soft rise and fall of a child still too young to understand that their food now came with conditions. Her thoughts spiraled. Who decides what we deserve to eat? Who decides what's healthy enough for the poor? She remembered something her mother once said, if you let them feed you, they'll one day tell you what you can't eat. And now it was happening. Not through laws or threats, but through code. Invisible walls built inside her phone. Days later, her benefits froze entirely. A notification blinked coldly, your account is under review for misuse. Misuse? She hadn't done anything wrong. She called customer service. An automated voice looped her through, press 1, press 2, until the call ended itself. The system didn't just deny her, it erased her. When Jamal asked that night why there was no dinner, she forced a smile. Systems down, baby, she whispered. But deep down she knew the truth. The system wasn't down. It was working exactly as designed. In the silence of their kitchen, she stared at the lifeless card on the table. Once a lifeline, now a leash. The same system that promised to help her had quietly turned her into data, monitored, rated, and restricted. Convenience had never been free. It had just been too easy to say yes to. And as the lights from her phone faded, Denise finally understood the whisper that had haunted her all week. The moment they decide what you can buy, they've already decided who you are. The following week, her card was declined. Denise's hands trembled as she tried again. Beep, error, beep, denied. The young cashier leaned in, lowering her voice. They've started restricting certain items, she whispered. They say it's for your health. For a moment, Denise just stared, her mind blank. My health? She repeated, more to herself than to anyone else. The line behind her shifted impatiently. Someone sighed. Someone else muttered. Shame crawled up her neck like fire. She left the groceries behind, milk, cereal, Jamal's favorite juice, and walked out into the cold evening with nothing but questions. That night, she checked her receipts, digital, color-coded, and flagged. Frozen meals, snacks, her favorite tea, all labeled non-essential purchases. Her benefits had quietly rewritten themselves. There was no warning, no appeal. Just invisible rules written by someone she'd never meet. She wasn't being helped anymore. She was being managed. Budgeting? No, this was behavior modification. Denise sat at the table staring at her phone, watching as her life reduced itself to algorithms. Her spending patterns, her calories, her compliance score. Every tap revealed how little control she truly had. The system wasn't just taking her choices, it was studying her, predicting her, correcting her. She tried buying groceries again the next day, fresh fruit this time, healthier options, only for the app to flash. Purchase limit reached. Try again next cycle. A chill ran down her spine. Next cycle. She wasn't in control of her money anymore. She was on a schedule designed by code. She thought back to the words that haunted her. They said it's for your health. But whose definition of health was this? The government's? The corporations? Certainly not hers. For the first time, she understood that this wasn't about money. it was about obedience. Every denied purchase was a reminder, you are what we allow you to be. She wasn't just losing access to food, she was losing the right to make her own mistakes. And as Jamal tugged at her sleeve, asking for cereal she could no longer buy, Denise smiled weakly and whispered, maybe next week, baby. But deep inside, a fire began to grow. Small, quiet, and dangerous, because she finally saw the truth. When control hides behind kindness, freedom disappears in silence. Denise couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching her, not a person but a pattern. She stayed up late one night, scrolling through forums, desperate for answers. On Reddit, people whispered about a new system, digital nutrition tracking. Others on dark web boards claimed it went deeper, that EBT cards were now quietly syncing with medical files and fitness data. They called it predictive health spending. It was supposed to help people make better choices. But Denise knew what that really meant, someone else deciding what was best for you. She read in silence as strangers shared screenshots, flagged purchases, frozen benefits, and algorithmic warnings. Overconsumption alert. Non-compliant transaction. It sounded insane, until she saw the same phrases appear in her own app. Now that she knew, she saw it everywhere. Her grocery app began suggesting approved foods, low-fat spreads, sugar-free substitutes, soy-based meals, always paired with cheery health messages. Smart choice, Denise. But the irony cut deep. It wasn't a suggestion anymore, it was a command. At the store, she noticed something else. Discounts only worked on certain brands, always the same corporate names. Anything outside that digital diet declined. Every beep of the scanner felt like a test she hadn't studied for. Standing in line, she looked around. No one seemed alarmed. They just tapped, smiled, and obeyed. The illusion of freedom was perfect. She could almost hear the system whisper, "Don't worry, Denise, we know what's good for you." But as she left the store with a half-empty cart and a full heart of dread, one thought wouldn't leave her mind. When convenience starts telling you what to eat, it's not helping you live, it's teaching you to obey. Then one morning, everything stopped. The grocery line was short, her cart light, bread, milk, and a few fruits for Jamal's lunch. She tapped her EBT card against the reader. Beep, declined. She tried again. Same result. The cashier gave her that familiar sympathetic smile, the one that said, "You're not the first today." But to Denise, it felt like a spotlight, every eye in the line burning into her back. Heart pounding, she stepped aside and called the number on the back of her card. A calm, robotic voice answered, "Your account has been temporarily frozen due to inconsistent spending behavior." She frowned, clutching the phone tighter. Inconsistent? What does that even mean? No response. Just another automated tone, soft, polite, merciless. Reactivation pending compliance review. Her stomach dropped. Compliance? This wasn't a job. This was her food, her son's meals. She hung up and tried again. Same answer. No human, no help. Only endless loops of digital indifference. That night, she sat at the kitchen table, staring at the useless card. It had once been her safety net. Now it felt like a leash. She scrolled through forums again. Stories just like hers. Accounts frozen, non-essential purchases flagged, users blacklisted for unapproved spending. Some claimed their benefits returned after a few days if they bought healthier items next time. The algorithm was training them, and that's when it hit her. The card wasn't helping her live, it was ruining her life. Every grocery trip, every swipe, every calorie tracked, stored, and analyzed. Her food choices were now part of a data profile, one she couldn't see, couldn't edit, and couldn't escape. Over the next week, she noticed subtle changes. Her phone suggested community health challenges. Ads for government-approved nutrition programs filled her feed. Her digital wallet offered points for following recommended dietary goals. It was all wrapped in the same cheerful tone, empowering healthier citizens. But to Denise, it felt like surveillance disguised as kindness. A smile with teeth. She stopped sleeping. Every sound, the buzz of her phone, the hum of the fridge, felt like a reminder that someone, somewhere was watching. Not out of malice, but out of design. Because the system didn't need cruelty to control you. It just needed your consent. One tap at a time. One night, she looked at her son sleeping on the couch and whispered, "I thought I was giving you stability, but maybe I've been feeding the system more than I've been feeding us." She didn't cry. She couldn't. She just opened her drawer, pulled out an old envelope, and began stuffing what little cash she had left inside. Felt strange, paper, fragile, and real. Something the algorithm couldn't track, couldn't deny, and couldn't judge. That's when Denise finally understood. It wasn't about losing access to food. It was about losing the right to choose it. And the scariest part? The system didn't steal that right. We gave it to them every time we tapped agree. When her teenage son came home hungry and asked, "Mom, why can't we get the same cereal anymore?" She froze. The question was innocent, but it hit like a punch. She looked down at her EBT card lying still on the table, its plastic sheen dull under the kitchen light. For years it had symbolized help, a promise that no matter how tight things got, she could still feed her boy. But tonight it didn't look like help anymore. It looked like a leash, shiny, silent, and unbreakable. She tried to smile to make it sound simple. "They ran out," she said softly. But Jamal wasn't a kid anymore. He saw the empty shelves, the long lines, and the quiet tension in his mother's eyes. "Mom," he whispered, "they didn't run out. They just won't let us buy it, right?" And just like that, the lie collapsed. That night, as he slept, Denise sat alone, scrolling through her phone, staring at the words "transaction declined" over and over again, each one a reminder that she wasn't in control anymore. It wasn't a glitch, it was designed. Every beep that didn't sound and every screen that froze was a message. We decide what you can have, when you can have it, and how good it is for you. Somewhere far away, behind servers and algorithms, someone had decided that her choices, her life, needed correction. Her pantry was half empty, but the data systems monitoring her diet were full. Every bite, every calorie, every decision neatly recorded. It wasn't just about food anymore. It was about obedience. In that suffocating silence, Denise realized something chilling. Freedom doesn't vanish with a law. It disappears with a declined beep. No one took her rights by force. They were reprogrammed out of reach, replaced by polite notifications, helpful reminders, and digital walls that smiled while they trapped her. She thought of all the times she told herself she was lucky, lucky for assistance, lucky for access, lucky to be part of a system that cared. But what if that care was just control wearing a kind face? What if every tap, every swipe was a quiet surrender? She picked up the EBT card and turned it in her hand. It felt heavier than it ever had before, like holding a key that only locked doors. In the distance, the refrigerator clicked off, the last of the power-saving cycles done for the night. The apartment fell into a dim hum of silence. Denise closed her eyes and whispered to herself, "They said this was progress." She looked at the card one last time, her reflection fractured across its holographic surface. But progress shouldn't make you afraid to feed your child. Outside, the world went on, brightly lit billboards advertising smart choices, grocery stores boasting AI personalized nutrition, and banks celebrating cashless efficiency. But in that small apartment, a mother understood the truth most people never would, that convenience was never free, and sometimes the cost isn't money, it's agency. And as the morning light crept in, Denise made a quiet vow. Tomorrow she'd find another way. Maybe it would mean standing in longer lines or paying more at cash-only markets, but at least she'd be choosing. Because once you've heard the sound of freedom disappearing, that cold, hollow, declined beep, you never forget it. The sun was sinking low, spilling amber light across the cracked pavement as Denise wandered through the small farmer's market at the edge of town. It felt like stepping into another world. No neon signs, no barcode scanners, no robotic greetings, just the sound of rustling leaves, murmured haggling, and laughter. Handwritten price tags fluttered in the wind, pinned to baskets overflowing with apples, tomatoes, and fresh bread. A wooden sign read, "Cash only." For a moment she froze. It had been months since she'd seen those words. Her first instinct was to reach for her phone, but then she remembered it didn't matter. Her EBT card was still frozen, and her grocery app had stopped recognizing her entirely. She hesitated, then slowly reached into her purse and pulled out a few old crumpled bills, soft from years of neglect. They felt almost foreign, rough, warm, alive. She handed the bills to a man selling peaches, his hands rough and sunburned from work. He smiled as he counted the cash, slipping it into an old tin box. "Isn't it funny?" he said, voice low and knowing. "Cash feels like freedom now." Denise felt her throat tighten. For a long second she couldn't answer. That single sentence, simple, unpolished, carried more truth than any digital notification she'd ever received. Freedom. She'd forgotten what that word felt like. She looked around her. People laughing, trading coins, passing paper, trusting each other without screens or systems telling them who they were or what they could buy. No declined beeps, no automated apologies. Just human connection. Fragile, messy, real. The kind that couldn't be tracked, logged, or optimized. A small girl tugged on her mother's sleeve at the next stall, holding up a jar of honey. "Can we get it?" she asked. Her mother smiled, handed over a few bills and said, "Sure, sweetheart." No restrictions. No algorithm was deciding what was healthy or approved. Just choice, pure and simple. Denise stood there, clutching her paper bag filled with peaches and fresh bread, and for the first time in months she felt something she hadn't in a long time, peace. No buzzing notifications, no cold, automated messages, just the wind, the sound of footsteps, and the weight of being free, even if only for a moment. As she walked home, the smell of ripe fruit and bread filled her car. The radio was silent. Her subscription had expired, but the silence didn't bother her anymore. It was liberating. Every red light, every quiet street she passed, felt like a reminder that life wasn't supposed to be monitored 24/7. That maybe, just maybe, they hadn't stolen freedom, we had handed it to them, wrapped neatly in the promise of convenience. She thought about all the updates she'd accepted without question, all the time she traded privacy for ease, letting her phone watch, listen, predict, and decide. Every tap to agree had been another link in a digital chain she never saw forming. And now, standing on the other side of that chain, she finally understood. When she got home, she laid the leftover bills on the table and stared at them. The paper was creased, fragile, and imperfect. But it was hers, untraceable, unprogrammable, untouchable. Her son Jamal came in curious. "Mom, why are you keeping that old money? You can't even use it at the store anymore." Denise smiled softly, brushing her fingers over the worn paper. "Because someday, baby, this might be the only thing that's real." He looked confused, but she didn't explain. How could she tell him that freedom didn't vanish overnight? It faded, quietly, with every convenience we embraced without thinking. She looked out the window, the city lights flickering in the distance. The same glow that once promised connection, comfort, and safety. Now it just looked like control. And as she whispered to herself, maybe freedom was never lost, just traded for convenience. She slipped one of the old bills into a glass jar on her shelf, not for spending, for remembering. Because deep down she knew, when the screens go dark again and the system resets, it won't be the ones with the newest tech who survive. It'll be the ones who still remember how to live without it. They promised a future without hunger, a world where no family would ever go without. But somewhere along the way that promise twisted. The hunger didn't disappear, it just changed. It wasn't for food anymore, it was for freedom. Every tap, every scan, every smart system, watching, scoring, predicting, turning lives into data points and habits into profiles. Denise realized too late, she hadn't lost her freedom in a war, she traded it away in a transaction. The system didn't need to take control by force, it simply made obedience convenient. And we all accepted it, smiling because it was faster, cleaner, and easier. She thought back to that last message from support. "Your account has been reviewed for compliance." The words haunted her. Compliance, the soft word for control. So ask yourself, when your EBT card knows more about your diet than your doctor, when your phone can decide what you can and can't buy, who really owns your life? Maybe freedom doesn't end with a bang anymore. Maybe it ends with a beep. If you believe freedom is worth protecting, share this story. Comment your thoughts. Would you trade your privacy for convenience? And subscribe to Zelly's Digital Dilemma, where every story reminds you the price of convenience is control.